So, welcome everyone. RapidAuthor for Teamcenter 2506, as you will probably know, has been released, and it's time for our new webinar. Today's session, we will give you an overview of the new functionality introduced with this latest version of RapidAuthor for Teamcenter. And as always, if you have any questions, we have reserved some time at the end of the webinar. And in case you need any further information or you would like to discuss a deeper look into specific functionality, maybe how it overlaps with customer requirements or what you're doing on site, please just contact us afterwards and we are happy to set up a follow-up session. We will first look at features related to preparing your data and your tools. Then we move on to authoring itself, as usual, split into features for S1000D, for DITA, and for general authoring. And at the end of this part, we will also have a look at a couple of new 2D related features and publication improvements. And after authoring, we will spend some time presenting new functionality of our Teamcenter integration. Let's start with preparation, specifically with data import. Some of you have been working with extremely large parts and very large models. Especially huge parts can cause issues while importing, as optimization requires a lot of memory in this case. In this release, you can use a new option for your import profiles in RapidConfiguration. It's based on a new data optimization algorithm. We call it merge after simplification. You can see the checkbox highlighted here in RapidConfiguration. And it was developed for such particular cases. We highly recommend, with anything related to configuration, to check the help topics for precautions and possible side effects. Disabling the reading of BREPs allows for improving your import performance as well. Also, when we analyzed some customer data, customer CAD data, we found that they contained damaged BREPs in multiple cases. So importing tessellated geometry instead of NURBS, this is our BREPs background, is a recommended workaround in this case. We have added the option to disable reading BREPs to the import profile settings. And as in most releases, we follow industry trends regarding CAD data, and we have added support for additional CAD data file formats with Rapid Data Converter in this release. This is a selection of the new supported versions. For a complete list of everything we support, you can always check our full release notes. And finally, here are a couple of additional features. We have improved the performance of BREP import. You now have the ability to update metadata specified in the import profile without using the update wizard. And you can disable the addition of numeric indices to objects with duplicate names. We have also added automatic cleanup of temporary files. And in Rapid Developer, you have a new part selection in the 3D view window of RapidConfiguration. Now let's have a look at data-specific authoring functionality. We continue to work on expanding customization capabilities for the look and feel of your PDF publications. These customizations can be done via the rules XML file that we had introduced in the previous release of RapidAuthor. New improvements in this release allow you to use different styling for different chapters. For example, you could use a landscape orientation for one chapter and a portrait orientation for the other. Or you could use a 2-column text layout for one chapter and 3-column text layout for the others. You can see an example of a 2-column page in this picture. And you can also define individual parameters for even and odd pages. For example, with different headers and footers or with different side margins. As another example, illustration size and alignment can now be quickly defined via PDF rules as well. These PDF rules can be defined through project metadata or a publication option to keep the specification component and default rules file unchanged. Rules defined in the project metadata are applicable to the current project and have the highest priority. In our screenshot here, we have defined two columns. Rules defined in the publication options are applicable to all projects of the current DITA specification. These have a lower priority. In this picture, we have defined a one-column layout in the publication options. So in our example here, the project displayed will be published as a two-column PDF document as the project metadata has priority. Another useful new feature, project metadata can be copied into DITA topic and used in PDF rules to create advanced customization rules. These were the main features for DITA authoring. Let's now also have a look at S1000D. First, creating and editing the forms containing references to a data module now takes less time than before, thanks to a new clear button to empty all fields in the form. A simple but quite useful new feature and quite often requested. Existing data modules containing ISO character entities, such as Greek, Cyrillic, or math characters, can now be attached to RapidAuthor projects. Previously, such data modules were not supported. Another frequently performed action is now also much quicker: the creation of unique identifiers for data module elements. This can now be done with a simple mouse click via the new command assign tag ID that we have highlighted here. Let's now have a look at general authoring improvements. Projects can now be searched by name in the Open Project dialog, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through an especially long project list. And other improvements for general authoring include export of static geometry to GLTF in Rapid Manual, in addition to Vermel and X3D. This is for now mainly used for direct import into different viewers and augmented reality applications. Attributes are now displayed in schema or DTD order, ensuring consistency. And projects are now protected from simultaneous editing in multiple instances of the authoring tools. This prevents data loss when multiple users work on the same project in a shared network space. After this overview for general authoring changes, let's also have a look at what's new for 2D. The composite illustration functionality has been redesigned in this release and now offers greatly enhanced usability and new features. First, we have created a new inline composite image window. You can change its size and position for your convenience. This is where you can define parameters of your composite image and create templates for future use. Let us add 3 different views to our composite image. Here you can enable or disable the generation of callouts. You can also select and edit individual components directly within a view, the callout positions, for instance. And you can easily bring the views to the same scale. You just select them, and then you specify the desired scale. These 2D views can be easily updated when the 3D geometry changes. Let's temporarily remove the drill and update the 2D view accordingly. Each view you have created keeps the information about the used viewpoint, so it can also be restored in 3D. The view also keeps all information about scale, callouts, background, etc. In addition to generating the views, you can also import ready-made images here. Please note that the composite image window has its own undo, redo, and save buttons. For further editing, you can also launch an external editor, in this case, 2D Editor Pro. All manipulations also apply to associated objects such as callouts or explosion lines. When we close the 2D editor after editing the illustration, the update functionality will still be available. So we can easily return the drill we had previously removed as an example to 3D and 2D views. These were just a couple of examples, as you've seen. Overall, we hope this new approach for the creation of composite illustrations allows you to combine, edit, and update your image much easier than before. Please give it a try and let us know what you think. The new release allows you to reduce the number of points in polylines for easier authoring and for reducing file size as a result. Let's see what that means and how this works. First, we will select a polyline that we want to optimize. As you can see, the lines have quite a few points in this illustration. And then we define the appropriate tolerance using a slider. The number of points that will be removed is displayed during this process. And now you can easily fit the picture borders to the bounding box of the visible graphics. That's it. This functionality was created at a client request for 2D illustrations, which originated from ISODraw. The Raster editor now contains a multi-line text editor. And we have included an option to adjust the brightness and the contrast of images. Of course, we have more 2D authoring improvements for you. Here are a couple of more examples. If you generate a 2D illustration in orthographic projection, the original 3D model coordinates are now preserved. This makes it easier to combine multiple fragments into one composite illustration. This feature replaces the fixed scale mode introduced in the previous version. The generate callouts mode is now retained when switching IPC pages. And we now have support for no pen line when importing files from ISODraw. Now we will look at publication features. The new release 2506 introduces a new method of creating PDF publications. We will demonstrate this with an example. Our sample project here contains 3 different pages with 2D illustrations. Previously, all illustrations from the RapidAuthor project were included in the PDF document. In the Edit 2D Images dialog, you can now choose which illustrations to include using a simple checkbox. In this first example, all 3 illustrations were selected, so they will all be displayed in the PDF. Now let's add a composite illustration. This one will appear only in the PDF, but not in the interactive HTML publication. In this dialog, you can find the order of illustrations and remove unnecessary illustrations from your PDF. As we now have deselected all others, our PDF should now only contain 1 illustration. This functionality is applicable to RapidCatalog, RapidIllustrator, and the generic procedure specification in RapidManual. Next, we have introduced a new option for DPL tables in your publications. Let's first have a look at how an IPC catalog in the PDF publication looked like before without our new option per illustration DPL table that you can see here. With this setting, a single cumulative table was located at the very end of the PDF document. When the document contained a lot of illustrations, the user had to scroll back and forth many times between illustration and full DPL table. Now let's choose Yes for our new publishing option per illustration DPL table. And publish it. As you can see, as a result, each illustration is now followed by the corresponding subset of the full DPL table. Please note that we have changed the illustration size from full page to half page before applying the new option. So both the illustration and most of the DPL table are located on the same page. If you don't reduce the illustration size, a large part of the DPL table will likely be located on the next page. This new feature is available to generic IPC in RapidCatalog. The new release allows for selecting various rendering modes for background objects to improve the user experience. Let's first set some objects as background. A new option called Background Object Rendering Mode is available as a publishing option and later as a publication setting as well. Here are the publication settings. This third option is likely the best choice when excessive detail is not required. This functionality is available in Rapid Catalog and in Rapid Illustrator. We have also improved the rotation and zoom algorithms for smoother navigation when using the mouse wheel in 3D publications. The new options set rotation center to selected objects and zoom to rotation center are available both in the publishing options of the authoring tool and in the settings of the resulting publication. By default, mouse wheel zoom uses the cursor position as the zoom center. This behavior can be switched to the rotation center via the zoom to rotation center option. On the next slide, we will display one of these options in more detail. First, let's have a look at how the rotation worked before, so without this new option. For this assembly, a bit clunky. Now, when we turn the new option on and select the same part, we can easily see the difference. The rotation does not cause jumps any longer, and the model is rotated around the selected part. Okay, and in our last main section today, we will have a look at improvements to our Teamcenter connection and integrations with Teamcenter modules. The first feature that we would like to mention is cloning. The clone functionality for DITA and generic content is now available directly in the Teamcenter RapidAuthor Client. Other changes related to DITA authoring are mostly about PDF customization. Support for DITA PDF publishing rules is provided via a new object type called DITA PDF rules. This enables more flexible and structured control over PDF output for DITA-based content. You can create XML rules and then import them into Cortana 3D DITA PDF rules objects in RapidAuthor Administrator. And we also have a couple of improvements for you in S1000D Authoring. The dialog for creating Cortana 3D S1000D items in Active Workspace has been improved to align with the behavior and the structure of the rich client. The new interface minimizes user errors and ensures consistency in object naming and ID creation. And the Prepare for Approve command is now available for Cortana 3D S1000D items. It opens a dialog that allows users to specify a date and assign a QA status. We also continue our development related to the integration with Service Planner. The previous release introduced support for standard alert types such as note, notice, warning, caution, and hazardous material. Alerts that did not fit into any of these types were imported as notices. The new release introduces support for all arbitrary alert types. For any Teamcenter alert type, you can create a warning, caution, or send message action in the publication and enter any text you want. Rapid Configuration now displays a dynamic type list depending on the loaded file, allowing for more flexible customization. In our integration with Teamcenter Content Management, we added support for creating new revisions of revised CMS objects on Distribute. Related content management objects are now displayed in DITA and S1000D item revision properties, and this is supported in Active Workspace. We also included a couple of improvements for RapidAuthor Administrator. First, currently selected objects can now be opened in Active Workspace with a mouse click. I hope you can read that tooltip here. Read-only attributes, such as item ID and name, can be directly copied from managed administrative objects. As improvements to the user interface, objects in the tree view are now grouped. And elements in drop-down lists are sorted in alphabetical order. And we have a couple of changes in the RapidAuthor Client. The republish command is now available in Active Workspace. And the new release also introduces an improved RapidAuthor Client launch mechanism without downloading a temporary file, resulting in a faster and more seamless startup experience. And last but not least, a couple of changes in RapidCompiler. Import, update, distribute, and other operations can now be scheduled using workflow tasks. Notifications for completed tasks are displayed directly in Active Workspace. And that's already it for the quick overview of new functionality in our 25.06 release. As always, this was just a selection of features, and we have many more small changes and improvements for you. For a full list, as always, please refer to the release notes. And now let's have a look at your questions. I will try and just move the Teams Q&A window over here. There will always be a small delay before we see your questions and before they are visible on screen in on my screen. But feel free to ask whatever is on your mind. At some point in the future, I will find out when I need to actively refresh here and when it does so automatically. We will see that a couple of times. I saw a work card field. Would be interested to learn more about this functionality. Maybe you can summarize, team. I know you're probably already discussing or typing. And by the way, this basically goes for all questions, similar to what I mentioned at the start. If we don't have time to go into detail or you need to explain your current plan to make use of, in this case, the work card field and want to see an example, happy to set up a separate discussion and go into a bit more detail. Of course, that goes for all questions. While the team is discussing and replying to the question, let me just read the second one as well. Are there any limitations in GLTF export? A very high-level summary in this first release for GLTF export I can already mention. we export static 3D geometry to GLTF. RapidAuthor has a lot of functionality when it comes to animations, and not everything is covered by the standard directly. This will be a multi-step process, but I'm sure we get a more detailed answer from the team. And then there's 2 new questions. Let's have a look. Are there any plans to improve fill behavior in Cortuna 2D editor? As in, add an option so that fill always moves to background by default. Add an option so that when fill is picked, lines are also visible instead of showing only fill, even though fill was moved previously to background. Let's have a look. That's the wrong question. Going back to the GLTF question. We only have that in Rapid Manual. This is a very good, very important point. It only really makes sense for our use cases right now for Rapid Manual projects. And we do not export animations. As I mentioned, we focus on static 3D geometry. Some parametric objects, such as panels, callouts, and section planes, are not exported. Others, like hose and flat cable, are exported as static geometry, so that shape does not change during the animation. This functionality will be further improved in future versions. The way this typically works is that there is a customer request or a collaboration where a new functionality like this that is separate from the authoring process is brought up, or we have a customer requirement, and then we will work with partners who make use of the functionality or customers who want to directly use it with their data to continuously improve and build on that. So we want to try and give you access to an early version of functionality like that to gather feedback, and based on the feedback, we further improve the functionality. That's a good example of how this planning process typically works. Yeah, that's that one. I don't actually know if this is my team's misassigning answer to question, but that means, just so you don't miss that we, as of now, don't have a reply to the fill question. Yeah, no, it displays correctly. For the work card, Eric, work card is one of the basic objects in Service Planner, and several work cards form a service requirement. This is the structure of how that works in Service Planner. A work card may contain activities, warnings, notices, and other Service Planner objects. And our integration with Service Planner creates a Rapid Manual project and imports service requirements, work cards, and activities as the procedure steps. This is basically the structure of the items or the objects in Service Planner. But let me know if there's a more complicated question in the back of your mind, and you want to discuss how you could make use of that. That was the 2D editor fill question. Yeah, that makes sense. Please provide more detail via email, and we will consider this improvement for future versions. I know I've mentioned this quite a bit in the past, but that is the most important part of this type of interaction with our partners and customers. If you have a good idea or something on your wish list, please let us know. We do have a lot of customers, so we might not be able to jump on this idea directly, but if it's an improvement to the product, it will always be discussed and potentially put on the roadmap right away. That is very good feedback. Here regarding Service Planner, which types of service notice objects have you added in 2506? And here's the full answer. In previous versions, we were supporting the standard type of service notice objects. notice, warning, caution, hazardous material, as I mentioned. In this new release, we also have the possibility to import non-standard types. That is the main new functionality in 2506. And you might have these non-standard types through Teamcenter customization. Load a sample PML XML file into Rapid configuration, and it will allow you to correctly process your custom service notice type. For example, map them to a new message type in Rapid manual. Basic idea is that we cover all the non-standard types you might have in your setup as well, and that should be possible now. I'd be interested in getting hold of a DITA PDF rules XML sample file. I don't really see one in the kit or on the disk after installation. Team, if we actually have one that is included in some of our content in the installation or in training material Håkon might have access to, let us know. Apart from that, yes, of course, not a problem. Let's discuss this afterwards. It makes sense just so you see what's possible. Rules XML located in the folder of the correspondent DITA specification. Let's see, there's a path. A sample file is in the spec folder in IPC CFG DITA task. Have a look. If you cannot find it or you need different examples, let us know, Håkon. Just quickly verifying that Teams didn't insert a new question down here. I had that last time. Looks okay. Very good. What kind of performance improvement can be expected from disabling BREP? From my side, I will say that is a very difficult to answer question because it really depends on your data, but let's see. Disabling BREP can speed up the import if you have very large JT files containing JT BREP. JT BREP is quite old technology, mostly legacy data. Newer JT files contain XT BREP, which is faster. Also, you can try disabling BREP if the import results in broken geometry. This is the example we mentioned, where we found that quite a bit on customer side. On the other hand, sometimes disabling BREP can make the geometry less smooth and more polygonal. Please just try the new option and compare the results. And if you do that, if you play around with that and see performance improvements, or you don't see performance improvements where you would expect them, let us know. This is very good input. It heavily depends on your use case and your data, but the idea is to unlock a couple of quite significant performance improvements. Depends on the situation and your data. Is my understanding correct that information about the scale and camera used to create the illustration is stored in the illustration itself, not in the project? Yep, that is correct. All information about the configuration used to create the view is stored in the CGM file and can be used for update events if the illustration is exported to another project. So you should be independent of the RapidAuthor project here. My apologies for scrolling back and forth, but since it happens sometime that a new question does not pop up on top of that list, I'm a bit paranoid. I think there's one new one, that is correct. Let's check. Yeah, that might also make sense. Very good. Yeah, we have a lot of information in our samples and also in our documentation. finding it is not necessarily as easy as it could be. We might be working on something to make that easier, but I don't have anything to announce so far. For now, if you're looking for an example, just go ahead and ask us. And here's a new question. When files are imported, so JT files, colors are lost if an element has different colors in the JT. Will there be a way to apply multiple colors to an element? An example would be a cable with different colored strands. Makes sense. I hope I haven't overlooked a function here. I actually hope you have, and it's possible. Let's see what the team comes up with. Good, that's fine. Import profile settings allow you to separate objects having different material. Is that basically no, it should be possible? To put colors to an element. Unfortunately, I do not know how to do that. But I think it should be then. Requires a setting in your import profile to have separate objects depending on the material they have, which would result in separate objects with different colors. It's possible that it would make sense to have a quick look at if you have an easy example, we can have a look at that together, if and how that can be done. Are there any improvements as to the the maximum amount of surfaces recommended within a project? It's probably smarter to let the team answer that, but as a high-level comment there, Eric, yes. I'm not entirely sure if it's applicable to broad enough use cases to officially change our recommendations that we publish on the website, because it's so heavily dependent on the data we and our customers work with. But yes, we have been working and will probably continuously work on improvements to performance. This is one of the more important topics with a stable feature-rich solution like RapidAuthor, and we will continuously make improvements there. One of the things that always makes me a bit careful in directly responding to the specific recommendations or a max limit of file size, surfaces, etc., or even number of parts in an assembly, is that we will continuously improve that, and whatever you're trying to do right now might work with an update. But demand for larger files, larger file sizes, more surfaces, more parts will just continue to grow. This is how this works, right? So it's very, very difficult to cover everything you might want to handle, or in this case, probably import and publish. Let's see what the dev team says. We have increased limitations and recommendations for the model size in our requirements. Very good, due to the performance improvements. So this might be the most official part you can get. Just, you know, it will always depend on your exact data. We saw significant performance improvements in very common but very specific cases on customer side in the last 2 releases, by the way. Cutting down the time for import and also for publication drastically. This will not apply to every import process and every publication, is that footnote I mentioned earlier. The BREPS improvements might be a good example. That might not be applicable to what the step you want to optimize at the moment. But if it is, it will be a significant performance gain. To go back, because I see 2 new replies here, in regards to different colors in the imported JT. There's a corresponding option in the import profile. Yes, let's see. For PLM XML, merge shapes, group shapes by color. Okay. And for other formats, separate surfaces with different colors. This is what Mikhail was referring to as well. With these options, the multiple color element will be imported as a group containing multiple shapes. So that should be possible. Let us know how it works. If that doesn't work exactly the way you would expect, it's good feedback, because then we can have a look where maybe we can make it work, or you know, make the functionality more general. Please note that this mode may have side effects if you use section plans, therefore it is disabled by default. That kind of makes sense, yeah. Okay, depends on your setup. I'm also quite happy to see, because I mentioned that last time, that it seems to be possible to reply to your own question now. That was a relatively strange limitation of that Q&A plugin we use for Teams. That's very good. So if you have any follow-up comments to questions, that seems to also be possible. This is the current recommendations, it seems, in terms of part numbers, etc. A model should contain no more than 20,000 parts. Okay. The total triangle count per model should not exceed 20 million. The triangle count per part should not exceed 100,000. These are rough guidelines, but they are the updated ones. I remember different numbers. Very good. As a comment, we have seen major improvements in recent releases. Thank you. Thank you a lot for the feedback, Arid. This is great to hear. Very good. Now it seems to always show me new comments as new. Very good. We do have a couple of minutes left, but if you have an important question you'd like to ask, not a lot of time left. And if you're like me, if the most important question you have appears in your mind right after hanging up, feel free to contact us afterwards. That is normal. Do we have any more questions in the queue that I cannot see yet?
Yes, one more question.
Very good. That's perfect. There's still time. Oh, I see a new one. See, this is what I meant by paranoid. Phil Yes, that makes sense to show it. By the way, I've only mentioned this. The easiest way to contact us for any type of questions is support@cortona3d.com. That directly goes to the support and services team. You can also, if you're already part of an ongoing discussion, mention this and we can set up a follow-up call about your topic. Or, we also have a contact form on the website. But the email is the most direct way. That. Your numbers that you posted, Mikael, 20,000 per project or per page in a project? Fair enough. Per project. But the recommendations are approximate and depend on the exact use case. So the easiest way is to try and see if this is acceptable, the result is acceptable for you. We would love to have a very specific direct response or a very clear-cut number, below that, great performance, above that, you're on your own. This is not really how this works because the data is going to be so different. So trying it out with confidence in this case is the best way. Big paranoia scroll. See if there are any almost literally last-minute questions. That might be it. Anything else in the queue?
Yes, a couple.
Okay, very good. Then, I'm careful with your time. Many might have direct follow-up calls. Should we not get to answers for all of your questions, no problem. We will contact you afterwards. Of course, that will always be true. But no stress. Can a tool be developed to check how efficient the project will be when published? That will, at least for me, maybe this is already an ongoing discussion in the development team, actually does require some thought. There's a lot of things we can benchmark during the authoring process, and we do. Whether this is possible, I'm not entirely sure. Might depend on too many parameters. Okay. No pressure, because we're testing further performance improvements for selection by click and by frame in the tool. These will be ready for 25.12, and the team says the limitations will likely change again. Let's see. You might have noticed I'm being a bit more careful here. Very good. In any case, I don't want to steal any of your time and potentially overlap with other calls. Thank you a lot for joining. If there's any leftover open questions, we will contact you afterwards. Feel free to reach out if you want to have any follow-ups and discussions. Thank you for your interest and your time as always, and have a great rest of your week.